It was really that immediate 1 + 1 = 3 type of thing, because for us, it really made a lot of sense to just join forces and just continue growing the way that we were at with BettorFantasy merging into FantasySpin.
Hey, this is Jesse here, and you're about to hear my discussion with Sahil and Steve from FantasySpin, which is Spin to Win Daily Fantasy. Recorded live on location at the recent SBC Americas event in Fort Lauderdale, they also discuss how they're applying gamification elements to the user experience as a differentiator, how Steve's background as a large affiliate in the online dating space is helping them scale user acquisition, and their ambitions for the upcoming NFL season and beyond. This was a fun episode with a company that's definitely bringing the fun back to fantasy sports, and I know you'll enjoy this one as much as I did. But before we get started, heads up that the Canadian Gaming Summit returns to Toronto in a few short weeks, and Betting Startups wants to make sure you get the best possible discount on your ticket. Look in the show notes below for a discount code to receive 50% off your full event pass, and I look forward to seeing you there. Optimove is the #1 player engagement platform, and Optimove Ignite Plus is its program to support early-stage iGaming startups. If you're attending the Canadian Gaming Summit in Toronto on June 17th to 19th, come visit the Optimove stand to learn more about how Optimove Ignite Plus can accelerate your startup's marketing efforts. You can find Optimove at stand A242 and tell them that Betting Startups sent you to receive your first month free. All right, we're back here on the Betting Startups podcast, live on location at SBC Americas in Fort Lauderdale, and I am joined by the FantasySpin team. I got Steve and Sahil here. Guys, how you doing?
Doing great. This is great, and you're kind of cold as well. Air is blowing tremendously on us right now.
I got to admit, I was a little reluctant to bring a hoodie to Florida, but I'm actually kind of glad that I did now that we're in here.
First time in Fort Lauderdale. Weather's incredible, vibes incredible, cool new location. Yeah, excited to be here.
100%. Things are expensive here. I got a coffee yesterday at the hotel. It was $12. I had a little bit of sticker shock with a $12 coffee, and I was told by my Uber driver that that's just how things cost here. It's just an expensive place to hang out for a few days.
Starbucks app, it was the same price here it is back in Boston. You just got to go to Starbucks, I guess. Yeah.
Right on, guys. So look, we've been trying to put this one together for a little while. Feels a little weird, I admit, to be talking with the FantasySpin team without Will here. Normally Will would be with you. So shout out Will. Yeah, we'll get that out of the way right up front here. But guys, your story is a bit of a unique one because Sahil, some people might know you and Will from BettorFantasy, which was what you guys came to market with a couple of years ago. Since then, you partnered up with Steve, and you now are working on FantasySpin. So we're going to unpack all of that, but let's just start at the beginning here. Some introductions. I'll start with you, Sahil. Give the audience a bit of a sense of who you are, your background, and major chapters of your journey up until the co-founding of BettorFantasy.
Yeah, definitely. Background's always been in technology. Went to school for IT, also in economics. So always loved the stock market, trading, looking at markets, seeing how it intertwines with sports. Started off my career on Wall Street at JP Morgan on the tech side, moved into product management on their fintech, eventually made my way to American Express to help launch their digital bank there. So always been around the financial markets. Will and I have been in the same fantasy sports league for 15 years with our hometown friends. It's what keeps us all together. And after our draft in 2020, in the middle of COVID, we were playing each other week 1, and I was like, Will, I want to bet you my team beats your team in week 1. And he was like, he wanted to take on the bet. And it just kind of immediately, we were like, there's no platform that facilitates a way for fantasy leagues to bet on their own matchups. So BettorFantasy was spawned in the middle of COVID just as a side project. No intentions to make it into a business, just something we want to go in to see what we can do and build it for our league. Built that out, had a lot of success with our own league and a couple other leagues we shared it with, and eventually turned that into an actual business. So raised some money, built out the product, built out the app, launched Real Money Sports. That's a quick background on us pre-FantasySpin.
Awesome. And then Steve, over to you. You got an interesting background, to say the least. Let's try and capture the essence of your journey in a couple of minutes here.
Yeah, I'm a lifetime serial entrepreneur, unstructuredly structured as a human being. So he adds the structure to the unstructured part of me. It's always in the sports betting industry, advert gaming, online poker platforms back in the mid to late 2000s. And then I always wanted to get into DFS and sports betting to kind of circle and bring back my original career that I kind of went down before I got involved in the online dating space, where I built a huge affiliate platform, an online dating company. We sold it to Match and IAC, too corporate for me being unstructured. So I left then and started my own network with my partner of mine. So we facilitate the largest amount of customer acquisitions to all mainstream dating in North America. And I was looking to get into a vertical that was just as big as the online dating space. And that brought me back to like DFS at the time. I wanted to gamify the experience because much like online dating, the user journey is terrible. The end result is terrible. And I'm like, you know what? I want to build a product that even if the end game isn't the result that they were looking for, the experience of them doing it was. And that's what led me to gamifying FantasySpin as a free-to-play version originally, and just allowing that good, lean-in type of gamified stuff that you can have fun drafting. Because everybody growing up playing fantasy sports, we always loved drafting. My early leagues that I was in, we would draft for like a Stratomatic league. We'd play the weekend and then like, let's do another draft. Like we never even completed the season. We would always do drafting. So right now there's no real fun in the industry. FantasySpin using a slot machine technology like apparatus to decide who you can draft your team from is a really good, and what I believe, concept. Good for the user, good for the platforms itself, and was very fortunate to have hook up with Sahil and Will, and then I wanted to bring FantasySpin from a free-to-play version to real money, and he already had the experience and the technology, so it was just a matter of like putting the teams together and then building this out, and we went live in last September.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the deal that brought you guys together a little bit here. I think for the audience, it's an interesting case study because there are a lot of early stage companies in the space that are on their journey and, looking for fundraising and trying to get the support they need to get to the next level. And you guys, again, I think are an interesting case because you had sort of a 1 and 1 equals 3 situation that I think a lot of other companies could look to emulate in their own unique way. So just take us through, I guess, the deal that you did together. You sort of alluded to it there, Steve, in terms of what you saw with Sahil and Will's platform with BettorFantasy. Obviously with Steve and having the FantasySpin brand and the unique concept of the gamified drafting experience. Seems like some obvious synergies, but like demystify, I guess, the process to put a deal like this together from each of your perspectives.
Yeah, definitely. Like Steve said, it was a mutual contact that really put us together. Will and I were basically on the journey of continuing to build a product, gain users, gain traction, do fundraising to back that up. And we were at a point where it's like continue to raise money, continue to fund the business. And then this mutual contact connected us with Steve and team. We had a couple conversations and it was really that immediate 1 + 1 = 3 type of thing, because given Steve's background, his team's background with growing user base and audience and an innovative concept, for us it really made a lot of sense to just join forces and just continue growing the way that we were at with BettorFantasy merging into FantasySpin. That's, from our perspective, just a conversation that led to something that we really believed in with the team.
I met, when we were on the, I would say, the exploration of looking for someone to partner with, someone to help us lead, to go into real money. I met with 5 different groups. I met with, I think you first, right? They were our first meeting. And I knew after that first meeting that these are the guys I wanted to work with. I'm like, if they can all be this good, like, because I want to, just like we're gamifying FantasySpin, I enjoy working with people that I like. And, that can be a good complement skill set wise and also be friends. And right away from day one, when I met Sahil and Will, I was like, wow, those guys are really good. Hopefully we can come together with a deal. And then every other meeting from there, it just didn't seem right. So after them, I was like giving feedback to the guy that put us together. I'm like, I really like them. Let's try to get this thing to the finish line at that point. And then it was only about 3 to 6, it didn't take long, maybe within 6 months, we were able to start papering it all up and figure out a go-forward strategy.
You guys can correct me on the timeline if I have it wrong, but I want to say it was around G2E 2023 in Vegas. I feel like the deal was announced around that time. Do I have that roughly right in the timeline? Okay, cool. And as I understand it, like since that time, you guys have had, basically 1 full NFL season in market, which I understand was a little bit of just kind of getting some learnings, a bit of a, I don't want to call it a beta launch, but maybe treating it like that. And I know you're gearing up for a big NFL season now, but I guess take us through the first year together under this combined entity. How's that been? Has expectation matched reality? And just sort of like, how's that first year together been, putting it all together?
I know from my side, current version of the app is so much better than where I was before. Just from a graphic standpoint, from a smoothness standpoint, just the whole UI itself is so much better. Early on, it was just a matter kind of communicating with Will and Sahil and their engineers of the vision of what was already built, because we already had this done. So it was just a matter of like, hey, 80% of this still needs to, like, we already know. What's the other 20% that we don't, like, that we can figure out together? So early on, it was just calls every day, mapping this thing out, what to survive in the real money one, what not, and go from there. So it was a great experience. It probably took longer than we wanted. We thought we would probably be done in, I think, 6 months, but it maybe took us a full year to launch the real money side of it.
Yeah.
So that was probably the only downside. It just took longer than what we originally thought.
Well, as a serial entrepreneur, you always want things to go faster than they do, right? That's normal.
Like Steve said, we had a great blueprint of what the gameplay should look and feel like. So that was the easy part. What we had to do was obviously figure out all the funnel stuff, getting someone into a game. So whether that's registration, KYC, geolocation, payments, conferences like this are super helpful for that when you get to meet with your vendors face to face and actually talk through the flow and everything. So that's something that still today we're maniacally A/B testing all the time to figure out how to best optimize it. But when we get someone into the game and they understand the strategy and involvement of how FantasySpin differentiates from the market, it's pretty magical what we're seeing in the numbers, and we're really excited to really blow this thing out in a big way this NFL season.
Let's double click on that differentiating factor. I mean, obviously, Steve, you've explained sort of the drafting mechanic using the slot style gameplay, but talk about just as a product in totality, how do you sort of characterize its differentiating features, maybe beyond the slot drafting mechanic, vis-a-vis a lot of the other DFS offerings that are out there right now?
Well, for one, my girlfriend, ever since I started dating her 10 years ago, she liked to play fantasy sports and she was always one checking her lineup, making sure that her players were still going. So one of the features that we have is in case you have someone in your lineup, you get their rewarded projected points if they don't play. So that was like some of the features that and you see it nowadays, like all of a sudden if there's a major player that goes down, everybody's like, oh, we're gonna give you your money back, right, whatever. We allow the average user to not worry about right before game time. Is it baseball? Did my guy is in the lineup? You don't have to worry about it. Did the NBA, did all of a sudden LeBron decide to get sat 2 hours before the game and you've already spun and put your lineup in that morning? This allows a lot more freedom, I think, for the individual, that when we set our games live the night before, they don't have to worry about waiting until near close to game time. So we can really engage the consumer when they have time to go on our app and actually play it. Where most of the time in the DK days or DraftKings, it's Sunday, I'm waiting till like noon to find out, okay, who sat, who's this, and now I'm like crunching everything that I need to do within that small window. And now you don't have to worry about it with FantasySpin. So to me, that's one of the biggest features and I just think it's fun. Like even for me, that's someone that thinks they know what they're doing from a skill standpoint, it's still fun to play this game, better than the traditional way that I would look at.
Yeah, truly we're a games company. You see a lot of the other platforms out there that are really based on just pick 'em. When you scroll through, it feels like a spreadsheet, kind of feels a little old school. We, like Steve said in the beginning, a lot of people in the industry, when they're playing these games, typically lose money and not actually having fun in the process of doing so. It's not just our opinion, but we talk to hundreds of users to really uncover this truth about the gameplay. So FantasySpin, you're actually gamifying the platform, gamifying the experience to build your lineup. It's what we believe is something that's going to really differentiate in the market.
Yeah, the entertainment value we're pushing. We're trying to put all the features that can really just give that user entertainment value. Because if we sports bet or play fantasy or whatever, it's entertainment. For most of us anyways, the casual fan is just looking for entertainment. And we want to create that full entertainment experience once you log on. Whether or not you're entering in a lineup that day or not, give them something every day just to be entertained.
So when you're drafting your lineup using this slot style mechanic, is it a random assignment for the players, or can you override basically the results of this slot poll?
We can decide launch a lot of different games within the games. Okay. Right now, everybody has the same chance on a player showing up in each of their spins. So what happens is for the NBA playoffs is, 4 teams, 2 games, all the players within the top 9 roster guys that are going to actually play, we'll put them into the player pool, and at that point, they each have the same amount of percentage to show up for you as it does for anybody else. And then once you go past that spin, now you may have missed that opportunity to lock them. So to me, this game is super highly skilled but fun at the same time, because you're not sure if that other guy might show up in my spin or not. So I have to kind of choose. I'm not waiting around to get Tom Brady. Right? Do I have to know if Derek Carr, and I know I'm using now 2 guys that are never playing it, but now do I want to lock in Derek Carr because the next guy might be Spencer Rattler? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of skill when it has to do with that.
And I want to talk a bit about the role of gamification. Obviously, the entire drafting experience is predicated on this gamified experience. Beyond the draft component, though, like how are you guys thinking about gamification and how that might extend into other aspects of the product and the overall user experience? Have you guys thought about other sort of unique applications of gamification within FantasySpin?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good examples out there in the market, but like just the product itself being gamified is really big for us. Like when you see our ads on Facebook or TikTok, you're really going to stop and say, okay, this looks different. This is a fantasy sports game. I actually want to check it out. The other part is like leaderboards or something that's pretty typical in gamification, which is something that we've leaned into in the past. But when the gameplay starts with fun and gamification, like that's really the base for everything else. Like we can see a future where you spin your lineup and join this pool of players, and then you take that same lineup and you create a pick'em entry out of it. Or Steve's been early in the vision side of things where it's secured a lottery space. So there's a lot of different applications that take this spin concept into a bunch of different games. Like I said, FantasySpin's a games company, and you'll definitely be seeing more of that.
Awesome. And look, obviously, as a consumer product, the name of the game is going to be user acquisition and getting to that critical mass and that scale. It's your background, Steve, and everything you've done in the online dating world. I would reasonably assume that expertise and that experience is going to play into your plans for FantasySpin. But I guess just to sort of tee it up, how are you guys thinking about reaching that critical mass of users? What are some of the marketing channels and tactics you're looking at that you think you can really lean into to adopt that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest advantages and why I've been, so focused on continuing to help grow FantasySpin from free and now real money is the advantage you can have in marketing when you actually can show real video of gameplay. All the ads that you currently see from DraftKings, FanDuel, Better Price Pick, there's nothing video-wise or visual other than them putting a bunch of static images into a video. So we can actually show the gameplay of the video. And that's super important when you're advertising across social, whether it's TikTok or Facebook, because their algorithms are all about time spent watching that ad. So if we can trick the platforms to say, hey, what's this cool slot machine-like DFS game? That keeps you on that ad longer. Facebook says this is much more relevant to you. We're going to now give you more reach to an audience and lower our acquisition costs. So that's like a huge side of it. Not just the stickiness in the gameplay, but it's also the marketing side of this. So, radio will be a little bit different, like the terrestrial side of it, but we're really trying to lean in on video pre-rolls and stuff like that, and talking to a lot of the big media giants around the country now. Anytime you're on a podcast or going to stream something, they all have video pre-roll. So that's really where we want to kind of lean in for our growth, to really show the game.
Awesome. Obviously, it's May right now, which is a bit of a quieter time on the sports calendar, but for all builders in this space, it's crunch time getting ready for NFL. It's only a few months out. So I guess as you guys look ahead to the new season in September, what are you guys focused on between now and then? And of course, once September rolls around, what can people expect to see for the start of a new NFL season from FantasySpin?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Will would love to talk to us being the lead on the product side, but we're continuing, like I said, to optimize that funnel to get people into the gameplay. Once you experience a game, you're really likely to stick around and play it multiple times. The other thing is, like I alluded to before, is that spin concept, getting into those different game types, like potentially pick'em and other things like that, is something that we're looking at moving on pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about the pick'em side of it, that we're in the process now of getting into the game and maybe ready for baseball. So when you go to Google and you punch in something, Google already gives you pre-filled recommendations based upon what they think. There's a conversion value there. That's why they're giving you those recommendations. So think of it that you want to wake up and you want to play a pick'em game. You're not really sure who you want. You have to scan through all these players, look at their lines, and figure out if you even like them or not to put them into your pick'em pool, right? By already spinning and going through 10 spins and 6 locks, when you get to the end, we've already know who you actually like and lock that you want to see do well. So we can offer you a pick'em pool right at the end, in your face, kind of like, hey, this is easy. We know you like these people. Now why don't you add them into this pick'em multiplier pool? So that's kind of like the concept that we think, and that is going to be just the next evolution of like kind of what we build, which is like really traditional DFS, and then also combining that with the pick'em stuff that's out there now.
It's contextualization, personalization. It's like where a lot of you hear the conversation around here going, but it's our gameplay is pretty natural fit for like that actually happening out.
And let's talk about the capital side of all of this. I don't know the details of your guys' deal, obviously, but I guess as you look forward and capitalizing the next stage of growth, you got big ambitions. How are you guys looking to, fund all of that? Are you looking to raise money? Is it self-funded? Give us a bit of insight into how you're going to fuel this rocket ship.
Yeah, we've been fortunate with Steve and his partner's success. They've been able to fund FantasySpin until now, which puts us in a pretty good position to say, who do we want to add to the cap table? It has to be really strategic. So having a lot of conversations, at this conference, outside of the conference, leading up to the NFL season. That's pretty much what we're here to do, looking at some other partnerships as well. There's actually been quite a few B2B companies reaching out to us to say, hey, can you actually B2B this game and give it to us? So that's kind of more validation for us in the platform. But for now, we're focused on the B2C side, and that's really what the fundraising efforts are going towards.
Yeah, and as Sahil said, I've been fortunate to do well in some other things where we had a couple of $1 million to put into this and to kind of improve the concept. And I think really now, as you see the industry and recent, $1 billion valuation that Underdog got, $200 million, we want to align ourselves with strategics that have tons more experience, integration, set up good partnerships, but are also there that when we do a $50 million round in a couple of years or a couple $100 million round, once we get to those valuations, we have people that are already got in early. Because a lot of these VCs, that private equity, whatever, they're going to want to have something early on in it, so they're not buying at such a high valuation as well. So that's why it's important for us now that over the last couple of weeks, we've been meeting with strategic VCs and stuff. And once we come up with a lead and figure out, who wants to align with us, that seems right, we'll go out there also to the high net worth individual, tag onto it, see what we can do. So that's kind of the plan right now.
What's the sentiment you guys are getting? I appreciate this is probably early on in the discussions you're having with potential investors, but what's the overall vibe, I guess, as it relates to the growth potential for DFS as a category, right? I mean, DFS is now 10 plus years on in its existence, and some people might suggest it's a mature segment, not a lot of room for growth. There's clear category leaders. But now you're looking for this growth capital to reach your next stage of growth, and obviously investors considering writing that check are looking for the upside potential. Are they seeing this category still as a high growth category, or just what's that vibe, I guess, as you're having these conversations?
Coming from the industry that I've been in for 20 years in the dating space, every 5 years, someone develops, tweaks the online dating, whether it was Tinder, whether it was Hinge, whether it was Plenty of Fish way back. So we know the vertical is going to be there. It's just a matter of what you can give to that audience that's already out there. 50 to 100 million people in the US are going to sports better or play fantasy sports. So that audience is never going away. And there are going to be new operators kind of like us that just change something that is super fun, super sticky, that people gravitate to. Nobody knew what Tinder was back in the day, right? They were just like, well, we'll just make it easy to get through profiles. Because the old traditional online dating sites, you'd put in where you are, what your age is, what you're looking for, and you'd get this huge roster of all these girls that would show up. I don't know what, you have to keep clicking into their profile, and you didn't know. So what Tinder did was just basically almost gamify online dating and swipe left, right, match this, and then message. Multi-billion-dollar business. Same thing with Bumble every 5 years. So I'm not as worried about what the market says right now. This market's never going away. Innovation's going to lead it. And I feel that we're why not us at the end of the day? Why not us to innovate something that we feel that is no one else has in the space or can do? We have a patent on the virtual slots meets daily fantasy type of apparatus. So it's there's no reason that we can't be, if we execute correctly and get funded properly, that we can be $1 billion valuation. And that might seem high coming from two of us just sitting here, but we're in this space to do that. Not anybody can just get into this space. There's a lot of regulations that you have to do. I had to go get my FBI scan thumbprint.
Yeah.
And they have to run background checks and everything. So it's not for everybody, Not everybody's going to want to give their FBI thumbprint and have your name out there everywhere, but it is. So, we're in that space. We're live in 25 states, include Washington, D.C. Now it's just a matter of that critical mass. So the money that we're in the process of looking to raise now, 70% of it is going to go to all marketing and really drive user growth. And user growth is going to allow us to increase contest pools, create more stickiness, etc. Better technology, whatever it might be.
I like how you said, why not us, right? Like, why not? Why not you guys? I think your experience, Steve, like plays really well into this, and I really love your framing around these 5-year cycles from the online dating world. I think that's very applicable here. So that's a good mindset and a good answer to my question. I guess, again, looking ahead to NFL now, the new season coming up, when you guys get to the end of the NFL season, you look back on it, in your minds right now, what would constitute a successful season for FantasySpin? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, just being continuing to be known as a bigger player in the space each season. You know, we had a successful beta launch this past September. Coming out of the gate strong this coming NFL season, we've added a couple new sports. We've added more ways for people to play. We want to add more new game types. So it's like, whether it's it's 5 minutes before the game and you want some action, you want to play, spin your lineup on FantasySpin, we want to be known as a place where you don't have to scroll through your spreadsheet to find your pick'em. It's like, you can play a game that's actually fun before the game starts. You can track it live while it's going on. We want to be known as a place for casual fans that have action on sports games.
Yeah, and we are going to launch our non-alcoholic version, arcade mode in the game, because there are a lot of states that we can't operate legally, or maybe people get tired of risking their real money and just want to play the game for free. So, that's something that we feel that we can also offer that to our customers.
And if you extend the timeline out, say 5 years into the future, in your wildest dreams, in 5 years' time, where is FantasySpin then?
I would say if we do this right, that will probably be acquired in that 3rd, 4th, 5th year. Or at least get a tremendous offer that'll be tough to turn down.
I think it just all starts with that spin mechanic that's actually fun, and you can take that gameplay and move it into any category. You spin your lineup and make a contest for DFS, and then you take that lineup and create a pick'em entry. And then you take those same players and you have a lottery ticket on the player numbers. You get into an iCasino or an iGaming type of format with the players that you have on your team. Contextualization, personalization is something that we think will take the next big differentiator in this category pretty far, and yeah, why not us?
Love it. We're gonna finish up here with some rapid fire questions, guys. So humor me on this. First one, you get out of bed in the morning, you check your phone. What's the first app you open on your phone? We'll start with you, Steve.
Sports radio. I'm like just logging into one of the morning shows back in Boston, the Greg Hill morning show, and just listening to what happened overnight that I missed.
You can find Steve on Boston radio a lot.
Yeah, I've been involved in the Boston media probably since sports radio started in 1992, 93. So.
For me, it's Twitter X. I feel like my algorithm's curated just perfectly, where I get the best breaking news, hear from the best startup founders. That's it for me.
There's a reason, though, that he can go to Twitter. My eyes aren't even focused yet. I can't read anything. I can only listen. That's why I go to audio.
Next question. If you guys are in the karaoke lounge, what song are you singing? Start with you on this one, Sahil.
Wow. I don't know. We did karaoke all the time at Rutgers. Let me think. I don't know. Steve, you go first.
Kryptonite, 3 Doors Down.
Classic.
That's it. It's one of those songs where I can scream because my sister always said I was tone deaf. So if I try to sing, I know I'm going to sound terrible, and I can just scream,
Probably Mr. Brightside, now that I remember.
Classic. All right, last one for you guys. If you could be anybody else just for a day, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So you asked this question on the previous podcast, and the guy from India, he wanted to be Trump for a day. So
Toast, yeah.
I won't do that one. You go with this. Let me think about this for a second.
I don't know. I live in Philly right now. I think being Benjamin Franklin would be pretty cool in the early days in Philadelphia. He's probably one of the greatest entrepreneurs this country's ever had. So I think off the dome, that's probably what I'd say.
That's cool. I like that one.
I don't have any one specific person, but I did over the past couple of years watched on the History Channel, The Men Who Built America. Okay. And it was so fascinating because I was a terrible student. So during history, I was probably doodling or math or figuring out who to bet or put in my fantasy lineup right during class. So I was just watching how they built the railroads, electricity and all that stuff. And it was just so consuming. So I think I would want to be one of those guys, whether it was a JP Morgan, whether it was
Carnegie.
A Vanderbilt, a Carnegie, I don't know who, but that would be the type of person that I could then do that one day.
All right, guys. And for people that want to get in touch with you, check out the product, maybe learn more about the investment opportunity, quickly plug the best way to do all of that stuff.
FantasySpin.com has all of our socials, has links to the App Store, so that's probably the best way to go about it.
Awesome. And for people that want to reach you guys,
yeah, I'm Steve Dakota on Instagram, Dakota Spin on Twitter, and LinkedIn, Steve Dakota Happas.
Sahil Patel on LinkedIn, sahil.com on Twitter.
Right on, guys. What's going on outside of, coming here to the conference while you're in Florida? Anything in the books that's fun outside of the business aspect of it all?
I've got open houses to look at. I want to be down here half the year. Okay. So I'm going to look at Victoria Park either townhouses or houses this weekend, so I'm staying. We have in Boston, I'm not sure if you've been there, we have a place called the Seaport. It's all new development, all come up in the last 10 years. This is the Seaport on steroids. I love going into Boston to the Seaport. I came down and I discovered Las Olas Boulevard like 2 years ago, and I'm like, this is where I need to be. So that's what I'm going to do.
Real estate tour.
Just
Steve was giving us a tour yesterday, so
Yeah.
he was showing me around like he already lived here.
Every bar and restaurant that you need is on this trip.
Enjoying the great weather, honestly.
Yeah.
It's pretty miserable, raining, cold up in the Northeast, so just enjoying this while I can.
Right on, guys. Well, look, it's been a lot of fun. Appreciate you swinging by, and obviously wishing you guys all the best with the upcoming NFL season. Look forward to continuing to follow your story. Thank you. We'll give her one of those.
Yeah.
And Will, we miss you.
I will.
The Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/bettingstartups. And if you like what you see, you'll get your first month free.